I've lived on Sycamore Lane for 24 years. It's a quiet cul-de-sac tucked just off the main road, surrounded by aging oak trees that lean in like they're whispering secrets. The lawns are neat, the mailboxes are identical, and everyone knows each other just enough to say good morning, but not enough to ask real questions. It looks perfect on the outside, but no one ever talks about the silence between the houses, or the things that sometimes move in that silence. I first noticed it when the Grady family moved out, if you can even call it that. One night, everything looked normal. Their porch light was on, the swing creaked gently in the breeze, and the smell of fresh-cut grass still hung in the air. By morning, the house was dark. Curtains torn down, windows smeared with something black, and the front door half open. There was no moving truck, no goodbye. It was like they'd evaporated. The HOA sent out a bland message about a family emergency and asked everyone to respect their privacy. That would have been fine, except their porch light stayed on. For weeks, day and night. I called the city twice to report the power situation, and each time they told me no one lived there. Officially, the house was vacant, but something was in there. I'd walk my dog, Bramble, past their house every morning. She always tugged her leash when we reached their gate, ears flat, tail down. One time, she growled low in her throat and refused to budge. I looked up, and I swear to God, I saw someone move behind the upstairs window. Just a shadow, but it moved like it was watching us. It disappeared when I blinked. I told myself it was nothing, a reflection, a trick of the light. The mind makes ghosts out of shadows when it's bored. That's what I thought, anyway, until the sound started. They began one night at 2:14 a.m. exactly. A soft, rhythmic tapping on the back door, not like wind or branch. It was too deliberate. 3 taps. Pause. 3 more, always in threes. I checked the door every time and found nothing. Sometimes there were damp footprints on the porch, small and bare. I stopped sleeping. I started recording. I placed my phone near the back door with a motion-triggered recorder app. Every time I tried to play back the audio, my phone crashed. I switched devices. Same thing. I uploaded it to my laptop. The files were corrupted. One night, I sat up with a baseball bat and a flashlight. At exactly 2:14 a.m., the tapping came again. I flung the door open, and there was nothing, just Bramble, whining at my feet and a sudden gust of cold air that blew out the kitchen candle. That's when I noticed something else. The Grady house across the street, their porch light had finally gone out, and now mine wouldn't turn off. I unscrewed the bulb. The light stayed on. I cut power from the circuit box. The light flickered but didn't die. I even called an electrician who claimed there was nothing wrong, and then quietly suggested I maybe talk to someone. Then I started seeing her, Mrs. Grady, in the upstairs window, always just for a second. Pale face, wide eyes, lips moving in silent warning. Once, she pressed her hand to the glass. Blood trickled down from her palm. I blinked and she was gone. I finally worked up the nerve to go inside. The door was unlocked. It groaned like something alive as it opened. The air inside was thick, moldy, and wet. Every picture frame on the wall had been shattered. Their furniture was rotting, cushions slashed. And in front of the TV, which buzzed with static, sat a little girl I didn't recognize. Her back was to me. She was humming. When she turned around, her eyes were completely black. She smiled and said, "You came back." I ran, faster than I've ever run in my life. My heart pounded so hard it hurt. When I looked back from the end of the street, the house looked perfectly normal again. Porch light on, swing creaking, curtains drawn. I did some digging after that. City records showed the house hadn't been occupied in over 8 years. No record of the gratis after 2017. No school enrollments. No utility bills. No tax payments. It was like they'd never existed. But I remember them. I remember block parties with lemonade and lawn chairs, and Mrs. Grady handing out cookies at Halloween. I remember their dog, Baxter, barking at squirrels. How could they just vanish? Now things are escalating. Other neighbors have left. 3 houses on our street are empty. More for sale signs have popped up. And the whispering, it's spreading. I hear it from the drains, from the attic, from under the bed. It's never in words, just wet, chittering sound that get louder the longer I ignore them. I've seen more figures in the windows now. Not just Mrs. Grady. A man with no face. A woman holding a bundle wrapped in cloth that bleeds. And a little girl. She stands in my yard at night, humming the same tune from the Grady living room. Sometimes she gets closer. I tried to move, packed everything, loaded up the car, but when I hit the end of the street, the road looped me back to my driveway. I tried again. Same thing, like the street won't let me leave. I've stopped fighting it. I just document everything now. I write it all down, hoping someone will read this and understand. Or maybe come find me. Because tonight, the little girl knocked on my door. And this time I answered. She didn't speak, just stared at me with those bottomless black eyes. Up close, her skin looked gray-blue, like it had been underwater too long. Her dress was old-fashioned, white lace, now yellowed and stained, and she held a doll by the hair, its porcelain face cracked. She stepped inside. I wanted to stop her, to slam the door and pretend it never happened, but my body wouldn't move. I was paralyzed. Bramble whimpered and slunk away into the shadows. The girl looked around like she was remembering something, or maybe checking to see what had changed. "Where are they?" she asked finally. Her voice a rasp that didn't seem to come from her mouth, but from the walls themselves. "Who?" I croaked. "The others." She walked through the living room and into the kitchen, her doll dragging across the floor with a soft scraping sound. The lights flickered as she passed beneath them. I followed, numb, and watched as she stopped in front of the back door. 2:14 a.m. The tapping came again. 3 soft knocks. She didn't react. Didn't even blink. She turned slowly to face me. "They want in." "Who wants in?" I asked, barely able to get the words out. "All of them." She smiled again. Her teeth were too many, too sharp. Not human. Then she vanished. No flash, no fade. One moment she was there, the next, gone. The air turned icy. My breath fogged. The knocking stopped, replaced by a scraping sound, something dragging across the outside wall. Then a slam at the front of the house. Then upstairs. The house had come alive. I tried to run, but the floor shifted beneath me. The walls pulsed like lungs. Shadows spilled from corners, stretched along the ceiling like spider legs. I stumbled into the hallway and saw the photos on the wall. Photos I'd taken, now featured people I didn't recognize. Pale faces, lifeless eyes. Some were smiling. Others were screaming. Upstairs, my bedroom door creaked open. I didn't go to it. I couldn't. Instead, I locked myself in the bathroom and stayed there until morning. But the sun didn't rise. The clock showed 7:32 a.m., but outside it was still pitch black. My phone had no signal. No time, no battery icon. Just static. I opened the door and found the house was no longer mine. The layout was wrong. The walls were different colors. My furniture was gone. It looked like the Grady house. The smell was the same, wet decay and rot. And someone was humming. I followed the sound downstairs, past rooms that shouldn't exist, hallways that turned where there were no corners, staircases that descended into pitch. At the bottom, I found a basement. My house never had a basement. The humming was louder now, familiar, the same tune the little girl sang. The basement was lined with mirrors, but none of them showed my reflection. Instead, each showed a different version of me. Some younger, some older, some wrong. In one, I was staring at myself while something loomed behind me. In another, I was hanging from the ceiling, eyes wide open. I backed away, but there was only one way out, deeper into the dark, and the little girl was waiting. The days blurred, or maybe they were hours. Time didn't work right anymore. Night never ended. My clock spun backwards. Food molded the moment I touched it. Bramble wouldn't come near me. She stayed in the closet whimpering, her fur turning gray. I started seeing the other neighbors, the ones who'd moved. Mr. Daniels from down the block passed by the hallway mirror, except he didn't have a mouth, just empty skin where lips should be. He stared at me like he was screaming silently. Mrs. appeared in the pantry, face half melted, her fingers endlessly stirring a pot of blood-red soup that smelled like copper and rot. She didn't acknowledge me, just kept stirring. And the gratis, they were all here, sitting at my kitchen table, dead but animate, their eyes hollow, black, and wet. They turned in unison when I entered the room. Mr. Grady raised a finger and pointed upstairs. So I went. The second floor had changed again. It now had a door that hadn't been there before. Iron rusted, chained shut with padlocks carved with symbols I couldn't recognize. One was open. From within came chanting. Faint, whispery. Not in English. Not in any language I knew. I pushed the door. Inside was a room with walls covered in newspaper clippings. Murders. Disappearances. Suicides. All on Sycamore Lane. One article was circled in red. Mysterious death of girl in basement fire. Family vanishes day after. The photo showed the girl. The same girl with the doll. Her name had been Emily Grady. I remembered her now. Barely. A quiet girl. Shy. She drowned in the bathtub after the house caught fire. Except her body was never recovered. They said she was still alive when the house burned. Screaming from the basement. That's where it started. They want me to remember. All of it. How I used to play with Emily when we were kids. How we dared each other go into the old storm drain behind the cul-de-sac. How she went in first. And didn't come out. Not for hours. When she did, something was wrong. She stopped speaking. She stopped blinking. And a week later, she died. But she didn't die, did she? The storm drain was still there. Still open. And something inside it pulsed with the same sick glow as the mirrors. I left the house that night. The first time in weeks, maybe months. The neighborhood was twisted, warped like a dream half remembered. The street lamps buzzed static. The sky had no stars. The other houses were melting, and yet the drain remained, untouched, waiting. I climbed down. The tunnel was lined with teeth, not literal ones, but growths that looked too organic to be stone. They throbbed as I passed. The air was thick and metallic. Deeper in, the walls started to whisper again. Names. Mine. The Gradys. The neighbors. All the missing. At the end of the tunnel was a door. A mirror was embedded in it. And this time, my reflection smiled at me. Not cruelly. Sadly. You can end it, it said. How? Remember everything. Let her out. The door creaked open. Inside was the basement again, but not mine. Not theirs. A merging of both. Emily stood in the center, surrounded by flickering figures of all those who had vanished. I didn't mean to bring them, she said, but they followed me. I nodded. I remembered. I had dared her into that tunnel. I hadn't gone in after her. I had left her alone in the dark. I'm sorry. I know, she whispered, and then she touched my hand. Everything went white. When I woke up, it was morning. Real morning. Birds chirped. The sun cast golden light across the street. My porch light was off. The air smelled like rain. Bramble barked happily at my feet. Had it all been a dream? A hallucination? I checked the mirror. No reflection. I reached up to touch my face, and my hand passed through. I am still here. The house let me out, but I never left. And now, I wait at the mirror, watching, waiting, just like Emily did for the next one.